is the week 2 recap show on the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz. I'm bigz. He's Grindberg. It's a week 2 recap, and the Las Vegas Raiders are undefeated and at the top of the AFC West as of this recording. Welcome to the week 2 edition of the Fantasy Forecast wrap-up show for week 2. And we got some dirty questions. We got some studs and duds. We got some waiver wire ads that you must put on your roster this week, pronto, now, post-haste. And yeah, how was your fantasy weekend, Mike Grindberg?
It was actually pretty darn good, I'd have to say. A couple of my more invested leagues did very well, and I'm excited for what is to come now. You know, there's some injuries that went down that I'm not too excited about. Some big name people, a really big name quarterback that still the book isn't out yet on how long Joe Burrow is going to be out for, but we're going to dig a lot deeper, especially into that situation, bigz. Yeah. It was a crazy weekend and some really, really high scoring matchups too to go along with it. So exciting week to go over and recap. And that's what we're here to do on the Fantasy Forecast for all the viewers out there on FSAN, on Talking Terrestrial Radio, Talking Tennessee 101.5. We are excited for the debut here of the Fantasy Forecast on there.
Nice. You ever happen to notice how when you're like scanning down your list of fantasy teams, the ones who are doing real good, you're like, this is my most important league. And the ones that are doing bad, you're like, I don't even care about that one. Yeah, you mentioned a quarterback, and we have spoken the last couple weeks on different shows about Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy, who now it looks like he's going to miss some time. He had a really bad performance for the first 3 quarters against Chicago. He had a terrible, terrible day in his second start in the NFL. And I just wanted to remind everybody, I feel like every show, every episode, I come on here trying to encourage people to pump the brakes and not get out over their skis on a certain take. And I want to talk about J.J. McCarthy just for a second, because if we remember back to the Los Angeles Rams, New England Patriots Super Bowl, Jared Goff got absolutely befuddled and destroyed and bamboozled by Bill Belichick's Patriots defense. Now, this is a guy who has 5 seasons under his belt, over 4,400 passing yards. So that kind of week can happen to anybody, even a veteran, even in the biggest game of their career. What has happened to J.J. McCarthy has happened in the first 2 weeks of his entire career, the first 2 professional games he's played. So let's not overreact on the status of J.J. McCarthy in terms of his long-term potential. If you have him in a redraft league, he's an immediate drop. He's an instant drop because he probably was just a backup quarterback anyway. So let's not give up on J.J. McCarthy after 2 weeks, because we've seen it happen. Sam Darnold, same thing. Last year, had a fantastic year. He's top 5 in passing yards and touchdowns and all this stuff over the last couple of years. And he was destroyed in the playoffs in one single game. And everybody was out on Darnold all of a sudden. Don't let one game dictate the narrative of one player.
That's a fair assessment, and I agree with that, man. I mean, I had high hopes for J.J. McCarthy headed into this year. He's one of my bold predictions, and still holding true here. He showed some glimpses of leadership there in that fourth quarter against the Bears, like you mentioned, but he's had about solid 7 quarters of not so trendy play here. So we're going to have to keep an eye on him, and that injury is still inconclusive. So we're going to have to, plan to be without him. And yes, if you're in redraft, he's somebody you're not going to want to keep around, and a guy that also people may be looking to dump depending on how deep this news is about Joe Burrow. And it definitely created a crushing blow to both the Bengals and fantasy managers everywhere. Our top story of the week is Burrow down and Browning is now up, and there's some fallout here. So he was later diagnosed with some torn ligaments that could require surgery and potentially end his season or be out for a couple months here. Burrow had just started to heat up, throwing a score before exiting, and now Cincinnati faces life without its franchise quarterback again. Jake Browning is stepping in and showed flashes, and there's some rumors of potentially some other guys coming in. Maybe Jameson Winston is hearing about some rumors, but you never know. They have Browning, who is known to be able to, at least steer the ship in the right direction. And look what he did here: 241 in passing yards, 2 TDs. He did throw 3 interceptions, but the drop from Burrow is seismic. It's massive, the impact, and fantasy managers holding shares of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown are probably going to have to recalibrate their expectations. Outside of Chase, I think he remains the anchor, one of the few truly quarterback-proof wideouts, and he's going to be hyper-targeted by whoever is throwing him the ball. Looks like Jake Browning is the guy. Higgins, though, that might be more dependent on the one that's going to take the immediate hit here, as his stock might go down in week to week, and his variance is going to be up and down because of the backup play, and also Chase Brown. He could see his volume in that stabilized offense that used to be high power might not be so high flying. So, Biggs, first question to you: Burrow's injury, it changes everything for them, while Chase still looks like that wide receiver one. What's your thoughts on the rest of the group, and T. Higgins for one moving forward? Is he worth rolling the dice on a weekly, or is he more of a boomer bust wide receiver 3 now that we in that territory now? What are your thoughts on T. Higgins?
Do you find it ironic that me, the guy with a show called Unhinged, has to be the voice of reason? I don't know what just happened. I don't know what you caught.
Yeah, you got unhinged, and then you unhinged yourself, and now you're back. And
I have to be the voice of reason. Listen, any chance I get to shout out Folsom High Bulldog, shout out NorCal, quarterback Jake Browning, I will take that opportunity. We go back in the time machine to 2023 when Jake Browning stepped in for Joe Burrow. Starting in week 12, he finished as QB 18, then QB 4, QB 4, QB 8, QB 21, QB 8, QB 9. That's 5 quarterback, 9 finishes or better. He had passing attempt totals of 37, 42, 42. This kid can sling it, and he does sling it all over the yard. Do not worry about T. Higgins. Do not worry about Jamar Chase. I saw some Twitter action about Jameis Winston and the Giants maybe wanting to trade. I also saw a comment saying that original tweet was not a news source. It wasn't a news item. It was coming from a Giants fan account that a lot of people consider a clown/troll account. I'm not saying the Bengals wouldn't do that. I'm saying the Bengals know exactly what they have in Folsom legend Jake Browning and what he's done on the field. And they're going to be fine. The Bengals are going to be fine. Jake Browning is good. He becomes an immediate pickup. I do a lot of dynasty stuff, and in those dynasty leagues, it's good to handcuff as many quarterbacks as you possibly can if you have a deep roster. And I've fielded so many Jake Browning trade offers today to try and get my Jake Brownings, because all of a sudden people are without Joe Burrow, and they're like, but you're the guy with Jake Browning. And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't see this coming, but I planned for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a common theory and strategy to going into is just fill your bench with guys, and I have Jake Browning in a lot of leagues as well. But let's talk about Chase Brown. With Burrow down, the Bengals may lean more on the run or short passing to stabilize things. Maybe not, but his volume could go down depending on game scripts, and they may not be in some high flying type of shootouts anymore. You never know. I mean, their defense is still pretty weak, and they're going to have to score some points to keep up. So, do you think Chase Brown's passing game could make him a sneaky beneficiary here, or could we be looking at a post breakout or game script volatility too much to trust, or is there anything keeping him away from that RB1, or is he now more of an RB2 flex guy for you?
Well, he's always been an RB2 flex guy for me. But again, let's go into the Wayback Machine, start with week 11 in 2023, and look at Joe Mixon. In week 11, Joe Mixon finished as RB5. In week 13, without Joe Burrow, with Jake Browning, he finishes RB1, then RB6, then RB15. He finished out the season in week 17 and 18 as RB12 and RB5. He averaged more than 4 targets per game in the passing game. So that's Joe Mixon. Chase Brown, we can kind of look as an analog of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was a very athletic back that has the ability to catch the ball. In that Bengals offense, same quarterback in Jake Browning. Chase Brown is going to be right where you had him in the RB 12 to 24 spot. He might have some outlier weeks. He might have a down week 1 week. He might have an RB 1 week another week. He's going to be right there in that RB 12 to 24 range.
All right, now let's talk about another story here. The Colts, they improved to 2-0 in dramatic fashion, storming back from an 8-point deficit to take down the Broncos defense and the Denver Broncos 29-28 in one of the most entertaining shootouts of the week. Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones, or Danny Dimes, however you want to call him, he looked like a man on a mission, throwing for 236 yards and a touchdown while adding another score on the ground. His third quarterback sneak touchdown of the year. Jones led an 81-yard drive in just 92 seconds before halftime. He capped by a 7-yard touchdown by Jonathan Taylor, and repeatedly attacked downfield with success against a secondary that deemed, pretty formidable going into this game. Surtain was, a shadow, and now he has 5 total touchdowns through 2 weeks and is executing an offense that scored 13 of its 14 drives this season, an NFL record. Yeah, really here. So the star of the show, Jonathan Taylor, after a quiet week 1 through the air, he reminded everybody why, he was taken so early in fantasy drafts. He racked up over 160 yards, including a 43-yard touchdown run and a jaw-dropping 68-yard sprint up the sideline for another score here. He got receiving work as well. Now, Daniel Jones is averaging over 250 yards per game and has 3 rushing touchdowns already, bigz. He hit multiple deep shots in, his first 2 starts, all while leading the Colts to a 2-0 record, running an offense that has now scored, like I said, 13 to 14 drives. With these kinds of numbers, that kind of command, is it time to take Jones seriously as a legit top 12 QB going forward?
We saw him have an inside the top 12 finish when he was with the New York Giants. They have an improved line in Indianapolis. I love the Indiana Jones nickname. I hadn't thought of that. I should have thought of that as soon as he signed with Indianapolis. But that's a great nickname. It's still Danny Dimes to me, but Indiana Jones is great. Now, we know what Daniel Jones has to offer, and we can see what he's doing. Anybody who had Daniel Jones taking down the Broncos defense, step forward. Yeah, I see none of you. This was crazy. Jonathan Taylor was one of my sits of the week last week. And I said in that show, in the preamble, every time I mention Jonathan Taylor, he does the opposite. If I say start him, he has a terrible game. If I say sit him, he goes off like he did this last week because I said sit him. So moving forward, if you are a viewer or a listener, if I mention Jonathan Taylor, do the opposite of what I say to do. I don't know why it happens. It happens with Tony Pollard too. It's both of those guys I just have a real problem with. Anyway, the Colts are for real. The Broncos are for real, and the Colts absolutely just messed with everything that they were trying to do. It was a standout performance from Daniel Jones. Now, we've seen a very long list of quarterbacks who take some time. They do terrible in a specific situation, and then they get a change of scenery, and they've been in multiple different offenses, and they've seen everything the NFL has to offer. And they, after 3, 4, or 5 years, the speed of the game gets to the point where they can operate in the mental pocket. And I think that's where Daniel Jones is now. He's absolutely a must roster. We will talk about that in a bit.
All right. Well, how about Jonathan Taylor? He racked over 200 all-purpose yards, a receiving score, and that 68 touchdown sprint. That he reminded everybody why he's the consensus top 3 fantasy pick, or has been in the past, with elite usage, explosive plays in the passing game, involvement in the mix. Taylor is quietly working his way into the RB1 overall conversation. And is it still too early to put him in that tier, with guys like McCaffrey and Bijan?
No, Jonathan Taylor is a dude, and I spent RB1 draft capital on him because of things like this, performances like this. We know he can do that as long as this offensive line keeps him clean. And this is some better offensive line play from the Colts than we've seen in the last few years. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think he's been a guy that I drafted a lot of based off of his floor. And I mean, if he could stay healthy, he's a guy that's going to really help fantasy teams, especially with this pleasant surprise to seeing how good this Colts offense has been, and the defense has not been too bad either. So looking forward to seeing how, once teams adjust to seeing this kind of output from them, and how they're going to adjust to seeing them on film. I think it might change it a little bit, but I think that Daniel Jones is in command here, and he's got the weapons around him, and he's using the weapons around him very effectively. So exciting to see. Another thing that's really exciting to see is what's all going down on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. There are some great articles hidden in the website, so be sure to check us out. And where to check us out here? The Waiver Wire article dropping in the morning, Tuesday morning, with this show, and then also the Start and Sit articles as we go through. So where to find it, bigz? We find it right here.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Yeah, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com. Check us out. Get your pro membership. You're going to want that. Go to our merch store. We've got really, really cool stuff from the Dynasty Pulse, the Fantasy Forecast. Lots of team-related merchandise. It's pretty good.
All right, let's get into some quick hitters here. We got a couple of big games this weekend, bigz, that went down, some big performances, and potentially talking here about a guy that some of us faded a little bit this offseason, myself included, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's looking like a guy that is really going to make the managers happy that did draft him. It looks like 9 for 115 and 3 touchdowns, and just looked incredible. What's your thoughts there on that John Morton offense, and how they have not missed a step since losing Ben Johnson?
I tried to tell everybody that it was going to be very seamless. It was going to be a seamless transition. I also tried to tell everybody about David Montgomery and the fact that he was going to be eating into what Jahmyr Gibbs was going to do. So yeah, the one of the least surprising performances of the week was Amon-Ra St. Brown.
There you have it. Okay, what about Malik Neighbors? 9 for 167 and 2 touchdowns, a monster performance after another, great debut in week 1. Malik Neighbors is showing why he is, ultra targeted. Another 13 targets this week, and that brings his total up to over 12 games with being targeted 13 or more, which is an incredible stat to think about here, folks. And a guy that is now in the pretty much the exact same whisper breath as fellow LSU stand wideout, who also had a really monster week in Jamar Chase. Both those guys kind of carbon copying each other here back and forth, and I could see this being a battle for the next foreseeable future here. Biggs, what's your thoughts on Malik, and is he in that tier with Jamar Chase now?
Yes, he is in that tier with all of the other former LSU wide receivers, including Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr. Don't get too excited about Brian Thomas Jr.'s bad performance. Yeah, Malik is it. We knew that, and the big difference, and this is something that we thought we saw coming last year, going into the 2024 season with George Pickens and Russell Wilson's ability to throw the ball deep. This is the big difference with Malik Nabers. He's going to get the target share. You can like post him for 160 targets of each season as long as he's healthy. The big difference between this year and last year is the fact that a hurt Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, whatever the Giants ran out at quarterback last year, couldn't get the ball down the field to Malik. This year, Russell Wilson and maybe even Jackson Dart later on in the season will be able to do the same. So Malik Nabers is here to stay. He's not going anywhere.
And a guy that I was certainly telling people to fade this offseason because potentially some emergence of other two wide receivers, and one has hit. And I told people to fade DJ Moore, and he clearly is not the number one target here in Chicago. It looks like Rome Odunze has emerged once again after his week one. He had a pretty good week one with a touchdown. Now 11 targets, 7 for 128 and 2. And I don't think Chicago is going to be in, shootouts like this where they, get 52 points scored against them. But clearly looking Rome Odunze's way often. And we showed some yak yard ability here like he showed throughout his college years there, Big. So what's your take on Rome? Is here to stay? Is he the guy to own now? And, hyper targeted here. So it looks like it is. So what's your take?
We have to kind of imagine what defenses are going to do involving Rome Odunze. We get into these kind of narratives where some guy will do good one week and we get all excited about it and then gets locked down by a defense the next week. You mentioned shootouts. Upcoming schedule for Rome Odunze: Dallas, Las Vegas, Washington, and then New Orleans. So there's a potential there over the next 5 weeks for 3 of those to absolutely be banger games where Chicago is behind early and big, and Caleb Williams needs to chuck the ball. Odunze seems to be the guy that he's got 20 targets in 2 games. Seems to be the guy that Caleb Williams is looking for, but that all could change if the game script changes, if the game plan changes. At this point, yes, Rome Odunze is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. Whether or not we can expect 30 points from him every week, he's going to be reliant on 2 touchdowns. I can see 7 catches for 100 yards most weeks, and then he's going to have to pile the touchdowns on top of that. Is it possible? Absolutely.
There you have it. All right, folks, we've recapped week 2, and now let's get into recapping how Biggs and I did over the weekend with our starts and sits, because we need to take accountability for our advice that we give you. And we've had some hits, we've had some fails, but once the season continues to grow, we get more sharp as we see things develop. And we had a couple hits this week. Why don't you do you want to start, or shall I start with my Studley and Dudleys?
I'll go ahead. It does take a little while for the sample size to catch up with our analysis. I do want to shout out our producer Schultze for calling the Mike Pittman sit, getting locked down by the Denver defense. That was a good call. I'll start with my studs. I went ahead and said, go ahead and start James Conner. He finished above what his ADP was. He finished his RB22. That's an RB2 or a flex spot if that's where you were at, and that's exactly where I told you to start him. And then Hollywood Brown, I said to sit, and he absolutely had a dud of a game. On my dud side, I said sit Jonathan Taylor. We talked about that. I don't want to talk about it ever again. And then I said to start Khalil Shakir. I saw a big target game coming from him. That didn't happen, and I was remiss on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't great either, but I had a couple, stronger plays here. I told people to start Dylan Sampson, which wasn't like a super smash, but he definitely outperformed where he was being drafted, and he was certainly playable, especially finding the end zone on that catch. So 3 targets. It wasn't what I expected. Obviously, Judkins did come in and play in that game, and it wasn't, the most, script happy for them because of just the way the game played out with getting Gabriel in there too. But he ended up getting that touchdown and being a studly pick, being a good flex play there if you needed that. And Njoku, I said to sit as well, only got the 5 targets, and Harold Fannin once again out targeted him and out caught him. So a not too bad call. He didn't bury your team, but there certainly was a lot of better options out there this week at the tight end position. So not too shabby there, and didn't have a great call with my last pick here. Which one was it here? Got to pull that up.
Fields.
Fields. He had a dud of a game, and he got concussed and left early, but he was not doing anything up until that point. I thought it was going to be, a little bit more of what we saw in week 1, but it just wasn't that. Some growing pains are obviously going to be there, and he might even miss some time here because of a concussion. So we'll see how that goes. So folks, stay tuned to us in the weekend as we, get closer. So you're going to have to follow that case pretty closely here.
I do want to jump in and say, in my defense with the Khalil Shakir call, he's still out-targeted Keon Coleman.
There you have it. And then my last one was Bucky Irving, who is still playing, so I'm not sure exactly where he's at. So far, 1 quarter down, he's got about 3 fantasy points. So, if he stays the course, he potentially could be a dud in a game where it looks like they're going to be some high scoring. So we'll have to revisit that next week, and we shall see. Now,
that's bigz. Why we don't pick Monday night players, Mike.
I'll have to be more aware of that in the future for our viewers. Big, just for Studley and Dudley. Maybe I'll do that for all my players. It'll just be Monday, so I won't have to wallow in my sorrows if I don't hit a. Just joking. We want to be,
fast draft eligible only.
There. Gotcha. All right, let's do this, Biggs. Let's get into the waiver wire pickups of the week. Now, we broke it down into tight end, quarterback as one grouping. So why don't you get us started with your quarterback?
I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. We especially Mike have been saying Daniel Jones is legit. Right now, he's only owned in 21% of ESPN leagues. So if you're in an ESPN league, Daniel Jones is more than likely. There's a 8 in 10 chance that he's on your waiver wire. Prioritize that.
Yeah, I love that call. I had him in my waiver wire article last week, but he's still around, and it's crazy to see what he did last week and still being around.
People were listening to us.
Yeah, I mean, top 12 right now. He's sitting at, I think, a top 3 quarterback in the NFL in fantasy scoring. So headed into the Monday nights games, and it's looking good for him and the future there for the Colts, and they might have found their quarterback of the future. You never know. We'll have to see. And let's continue on to my waiver wire pickup at the quarterback position. We talked about this already. Jake Browning is there because Biggs talked a little bit about what he'd done when he was a starter in 2023, and the wreckage is there. He's got the weapons to be very much fantasy relevant. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, all with proven track records. So, he is going to be in there managing games, but this isn't new territory for him. He's already had 7 starts. Well, more than that under his belt, but 7 starts in 2023 where he was a top 15 fantasy producer. I think 5 of those were top 10 fantasy outings. So looking really good as a guy that could come in and, plug and play on streaming type scenarios. If you need a streaming quarterback and the matchup is right, which a lot of them are going to be with this Bengals defense that gives up a lot of points to other teams, you're going to see, Jake Browning potentially go back to the levels he was in 2023, where he scored 19 fantasy points per game in his starts. And he scored, 3 touchdowns in relief this weekend, 92-yard touchdown drive, showing that he's got chemistry with his receivers. So the bottom line is he isn't just a warm body. He is going to fill in for Burrow and do a good job of it. So big's touch base, and I'm just rounding them for everybody to see a glaring hole here and somebody that can make your fantasy team, relevant and on bye weeks.
Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Jake Browning. Man, Tom Brady, my neighborhood seems to churn out some pretty good quarterbacks. Shout out NorCal.
You're like the butter makers of the quarterback position.
Buttermaker. Nice call.
All right,
let's get to the running or the wide receivers. My wide receiver priority right now is Alec Ayomanor. I'm eating crow on this one. I hated Alec Ayomanor coming out. I thought he was in a muddled, heavy, target spread offense in Tennessee. But the fact that he's a rookie with 13 targets and a lot of them high value targets, Alec Ayomanor has impressed the Titans coaching staff and is working really, really well with Cam Ward. He's only owned in 8% of ESPN leagues. So go grab Alec Ayomanor right now. If nothing else, then you just stash him on your bench and wait for Calvin Ridley to get right. But Ayomanor looks, after the first couple weeks, to be something of value that I had written off.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the size, and he clearly, the way that, Cam Ward likes to sling the ball, he can get downfield, get those contested catches, which is proven to be, not something he's relying on Ridley as much now. I thought that Ridley would be that deep threat, but it's looking like more and more now that Ayomanor is going to come in and command targets. So my Ridley stakes are a little taking a bit of a hit because I did not think that Ayomanor would come in and just be the hog here. And, Ridley's still going to have a lot of value, but it's looking like he won't be that Terry McLaurin style pick that a lot of people had him pegged as headed into this season.
It's week 2. There's still 14 weeks of football left. He's got some room to work. And if you look at it, he's still got 14 targets, which is more than Ayomanor. So,
Yeah, but I was expecting,
more
15 to 20 targets at this stage, and Ayomanor, commanding that and, getting red zone looks definitely, changes the way I look at Calvin Ridley and his upside. He's more capped at this stage, whereas I thought it was full runway, and just might not be the case for now. Exactly. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But I mean, it's a great thing, to see that Cam Ward, a young quarterback, is going to have somebody to look at it on top of Ridley, and it's not more than just one dimension type of football. So we shall see how this rookie can develop those chemistries, and it looks like he's already started one with this rookie. So rookie to rookie, they're in the same boat now. Let's get into my wide receiver pickup of the week, and a guy that I just been trying to just will him into the lineup for a year and a bit now, and that's Troy Franklin. And us on the Indroppables Network, we were all very high on Troy Franklin because of how he scored in the UN score back in 2024, and he was just kind of thrown into a murky situation that always needed some attention as far as development goes. And we know that Sean Payton doesn't exactly like to throw his wide receivers into the mix right away. And that's kind of just what happened with Troy Franklin. And after a pretty quiet debut in week 1, he broke out in week 2 this in his sophomore year or two. Week 2 came with 8 catches, 9 targets, 89 yards, and he put up a touchdown, 24 fantasy points in the process. And he was always a guy that had a great separation score. He had a great yards per route run, and now, he's earning those targets. He carved out, a high volume slot role, and it could pay off big this season as it progresses, especially when they start playing teams like the Chargers, who are going to, push him to some higher scoring type matchups, I think, and the Chiefs, who have, are all 1-2 now, and they have got nothing to lose. They're going to have to really take things to the next level. So I see this being a little bit more pass happy for the Broncos, and hopefully it means good things for Troy Franklin. 15 targets, 2 games, 3.32 yards per route run in his final season in Oregon. And who was his quarterback in Oregon? Well, that was none other than Bo Nix. So that chemistry is there. And now with that slot usage over 50%, I think that's where he's found his niche. And I don't think he's going to be a stash anymore. I think he's a guy that, as long as the game script proves that they're going to need to throw the ball a little bit here, I think Troy Franklin is going to be part of that equation. And yeah, let's go.
For our American speakers, he was saying Oregon. It's the state of Oregon.
Fair.
And we were high on him because of his relationship with Bo Nix, and we felt like he and Bo Nix already having that connection would do him well in his rookie season. Didn't turn out that way, but at some point it should, and it's come to fruition at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, man. It's time, bigz. It's that time. Let's get into our spotlights of the night, and guys that we're going to spotlight the running back position this week, and we're going to start with your running back pickup of the.
All right, my running back priority waiver wire ad this week is Atlanta Falcons running back Tyler Allgeier. Now, one of the worst fantasy days of my entire life was the draft in which all of my Tyler Allgeier shares died when the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson. Or is it Bijan? We don't know. Anyway, in standard PPR scoring last night, the other day, Tyler Allgeier came out with a 15-point performance, good for RB17 as of this recording, which if you were playing him in a flex spot, that's pretty darn good. Even if you're taking into consideration that we still have Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris and Ashton Genty and Bucky Irving to go, that might push him down into the 20s, into the RB20 range, which is fine. But here's the thing. It's never a bad idea to own a handcuff, especially to somebody who gets the volume that Bijan Robinson is going to get. If at any point this season Tyler Allgeier is called into service to be the RB1 in Atlanta, he's perfectly capable of being that guy. Over the course of the last two games, he has 26 total carries and a touchdown. If you extrapolate that over the course of the season, this kid could possibly finish in the range of 200 total fantasy points. That's pretty darn good for a waiver wire pickup, especially when right now he's owned in 34% of ESPN leagues. That means that he's available in 66% of ESPN leagues. Check your players list. 65% chance of grabbing Tyler Allgeier, especially if you have a waiver priority. He's the guy I'm going after this week.
Yeah, man, that's a great call, bigz, because a lot of us had thought that, maybe this Atlanta Falcon team was going to be a mimic of what the last couple of games were of 2024 with Michael Penix, where they had really nothing to play for at that stage. They were kind of seeing what their young quarterback had, and they were a little bit more pass happy. But when you look at the game scripts, and especially with a team that their defense is playing a little bit tighter, they held the Minnesota Vikings to 6 points. And, look at what Michael Penix needed to do. He only needed to throw the ball 21 times. And if you look at how many times this Falcons team ran the ball, they ran the ball 39 times in that game. And Allgeier got 16 carries. He got a catch. And to me, that's huge usage and maybe a sign of things to come. Bijan's still going to eat his share, still getting 22 carries plus the receiving work. And if they're in games, I think the Falcons are going to be running the ball quite a bit, and Allgeier is going to eat. I think he's got standalone value, and at this stage, I think he is the best handcuff in the NFL when you think of a starting running back and what workload could be Allgeier's if, God forbid something were to happen to Bijan. So I'm really looking at all my lineups that I have Bijan Robinson, and I might be looking at potentially getting the best handcuff in the game right now, because a lot of guys have thought that, maybe that handcuff is Zach Charbonnet. There's some other handcuffs out there, but when you think about workload and what the Falcons are showing right now in their game, you're looking like a run-heavy team.
Zach Charbonnet is another perfect example of what I was talking about not getting overly excited about a week 1 narrative or a week 2 narrative. Everybody was on the Zach Charbonnet train last week, just like they were on the Corey Krosky Merritt train before the season started. And guess what, folks? Zach Charbonnet had like a point, and Bill McCroskey Merritt had 5 points. Let's calm down when it comes to single week narratives and look at analysis. That's why we do this work, so that you don't have to.
There you go. All right.
Go ahead and like, subscribe, hit the bell. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com. Watch us on all of our shows, including Breakfast with Bigz, which absolutely will be back on Sunday, 8:30 a.m. West Coast time, 11:30 East Coast time. It's hard to work till midnight, 1 a.m. and then be up at 8:30 the next day. But I won't miss it again. And you can count on that. We got our starts and sit show coming up. We've got Points After Thursday coming up on Thursday night after the barn burner of a Thursday night game, which will be happening this week. And we hope you win.
And we hope that we can get my waiver wire pickup of the weekend for the running back position.
So I just want to get that call to action in before you.
Yeah, of course. We needed to get it in, and you'll have to do it again because we got to plug the merch shop anyway. So I want to talk about a guy that he's been rostered in quite a few leagues, and he has been drafted, but he is at that threshold of 50% or more. So I'm going to talk about Cam Skattebo, Cam Skattaboom, if you will. I've been talking about him a lot this offseason as a guy that I thought that maybe, just maybe, might have that opportunity of, taking in and digging into that workload for Tyrone Tracy. And, Devin Singletary is also, was penciled in for some key roles. But week 2, it belonged to Skattebo in that offense. It was the takeover that I think is just starting to begin here. He barely saw the field in week 1, but the rookie bulldozer came out of the shadows in week 2. 11 carries, 45 yards, and a hard-earned touchdown, along with a pair of receptions. So he just didn't fill in. He looked like the most physical and decisive runner in that backfield, owning 56% of the snaps and dominating the red zone work, 500 yards of offensive explosion for the Giants. And I think that Skattebo was a good portion of that, and he was one of my top waiver wire priorities. Now, if he's available in your leagues, we know that some of our leagues, they're a bit more shallow, and some of them are bigger and deeper, so Skattebo kind of just falls right in the middle there, so he's definitely worth mentioning. Getting 100% of those red zone carries is a big one for me, and he had 293 touches last year, in 2023. He shows that he has that bell cow opportunity, and great pass catcher as well. 1.62 yards per route run last year, tied best for all college running back. So a lot of things that are looking good here for him. And if this Giants offense is going to be, in these type of shootouts like they have been, I could just see Skattebo be a direct beneficiary of this, and a guy that is definitely needed to be owned and flex worthy now at this stage, potentially with some upside going forward.
We told you all summer, and I said specifically that at some point this year, Cam Skattebo was going to take over that backfield. And you and I had the opportunity to draft him in the first rookie draft that we were in this year. So shout out to us. Also, I get another chance to shout out NorCal Rio Linda legend, Cam Skattebo. Yeah, he is for real. He was the FBS leader in receiving yards among running backs. In all of college football, he was second only to Lan Larison. And Cam Skattebo is for real.
Yeah, and a lot of things that are starting to develop here in week 2. So we're not going to get over our skis, right, Biggs? We're going to wait till week 4 to make some educated analysis, and we are going to continue to ride this wave that is the fantasy football season. It's a grind, but we're here to help you folks get through your grind and help you win championships. And we're here to stay. FSAN.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. So like Big said, catch us on Thursday night on Points After Thursday for the live show recapping the Thursday night game, and be sure to check out our Starts and Sits show on Saturday mornings.
It's a tricky one. Also, go to fantasysportsadvice.com merch store and pick up that swag. A nice fantasy forecast to go with your Dynasty Pulse sweatshirt. That would be cool. And we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks.
Oh, yeah. Wait, tell them the promo code.
Promo code is Forecast15, folks.
Forecast
15% off your merch. And be sure to use that code because directly helps support us. And that's what we want. We want you to, win your championship and us getting supported as well. So everybody wins, and we hope you win. Peace.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.